one would see it to be, because John Mahama is still in the 50s and Dr. Bawumia is lagging behind in the 40s and the 38s and all of that. What would a Matthew Puku Prempeh partnership or a ticket mean for the party going forward? Noble Crosby Annan is our correspondent. He was there yesterday in flesh and blood. He saw everything in living color. He joins us on the phone line now. Crosby, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
Yesterday, when the announcement was made, and this was a unanimous decision by the National Council, what was the mood and feel around the area?
Well, I'll start from the beginning of the day, even before the announcement, Johnny. A lot of euphoria. It was as if everybody who was coming there knew what the decision of the National Council of the party would be and what angle or what line the team or everybody who will be in that room will follow. So people were trooping in the place from the morning right after around 9 a.m. We saw some national security operatives, some security personnel visiting the area just to make sure that for such a high-profile event that would see the president, the vice president, and other bigwigs of the NPP attending, security was top-notch. So these people visited the place, they did what they had to do, and then later we cited the General Secretary of the party, Frimpong Kodia, also visited the venue, the Alisa Hotel Pavilion. He also came to assess the progress of work, because in a few hours, this all-important event of the NPP was happening. So he declined to speak with the media when he got there. So at around 1 o'clock p.m., these guests, the invited personalities, they started trooping in. I'm talking about members of the National Council. Mind you, it was 2 meetings yesterday. So the first meeting around 2 p.m. and the second 3 o'clock began successfully. So they started visiting the area, the Alisa Hotel Pavilion, trooping in one after the other. And when they were coming, some supporters of the party also followed. And then that's when the whole enthusiasm, the whole euphoria jamboree began. In fact, before the arrival of some big wigs of the party, you had some supporters of the now running mate of Dr. Bawumia, who had thronged the place singing and dancing his name. So eventually it began. The president arrived. Lady Japon was there. The chief of staff was there. We saw other bigwigs of the party. Osafo Mafo was there. Kwabena Japon came. In fact, everybody, any name you can mention who will be part of the National Executive Committee of the NPP, they all went inside there. And I should also tell you that if you pay attention to how long these NEC meetings of the NPP last, it usually travels deep into the night. So somewhere after 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes even 11 p.m. But yesterday, the meeting ended somewhere around 5 o'clock. So the interpretation is that a lot of backdoor dealings, a lot of lobbying, a lot of engagement happened before the meeting yesterday. So people are saying that this was just a formality, because the groundwork, the legwork had been done already. So when they met, they began around maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, thereabout, somewhere around 5. It had come to an end. And just as the people expected it to be, the decision was made, the confirmation came, and everybody, the place erupted in joy, even when Napo was ushered into the building. I think he was the last person to enter into the place. When he came inside, he was accompanied by some other members of parliament from the Ashanti region. I remember Vincent Asefua was part of the team that went to bring him from the entrance of the Alisa hotels when he visited, and it was all fun. He entered, and after a few hours, the decision was made that they engaged the media, John.
Now, I saw that you spoke with Mr. Richard Ahiagba, and you tried to speak earlier with Nana Kumia, who is the vice chair on the Dr. Bawumia campaign, who wouldn't speak to you, but Richard Ahiagba spoke with you on that direction. The mood, and I saw some market women there as well with some food stuff. What was the relevance of that, though?
So I'll start with the market women. So when I engaged with them yesterday, what they told me was that they had been praying. In fact, she says they fasted for a day. a day that the National Council of the NPP would make the decision that would be most suitable for the progress of the party. And they represented traders at various markets in the Ashanti region, yam, kinky, plantain, onions, tomatoes, all sort of tubers, vegetables, fruits. Traders essentially from various markets in the Ashanti region were there. And they said they prayed that the National Council would confirm or approve the nomination of Dr. Bawumia as the running mate to
Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh.
Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh as the running mate to Dr. Bawumia. That was the significance there.
Right.
So when they came, they said they got their heart's desires. God listened to their prayers. In fact, we said they fasted for a day. And then when I engaged with Richard Ahinagba of the party, he was confirming some utterances that the now running mate of the party made in the room. So according to him, he said he would be, and I'm talking about Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, he agreed that he would be the running mate of the party and nothing more, sticking with the vision of his boss, the flag bearer of the party, Dr. Bawumia.
In terms of the public reaction to some of the utterances that Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh had made earlier, prior to becoming the running mate, even as energy minister, as education minister, some comments that people have categorized as being unsavory. What is the general reaction of the party folks that you engaged with yesterday?
So engaging with them, the interaction or the acceptance levels of these things is that it came from various angles. Number one is, at that time, the man had not gotten to the position he has gotten to now. So he would fit in the shoes of the office. He would do what the office requires of him. And that would mean that he may tone down on some of these things he was saying that was being interpreted as, if you like, arrogance or pride or something like that. That was one of them. Now, other quarters would also say the man was just being truthful. He was just being blunt. You can't, sugarcoat the truth. What they're saying is that he was just doing what is expected of him. They didn't find anything wrong with some of these utterances that other quarters are interpreting as being arrogant or coming off as a little bit of arrogance. He was just being bold and outspoken, and there is really nothing wrong with that.
Well, hold that line for me. Let me connect with William Evans Income. He is a Northern Bureau Chief, joins us on the phone line. Bill, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Johnny by.
For the people. Now, Bill, you tell me, this is a son of the Ashanti and a Peja Royal who has been in Parliament almost all of his adult life. Now he becomes the running mate of the NPP. What is the Ashanti region saying?
Well, so the Ashanti region, it has welcomed the news, but not in whole, because there are still grievances at the base. For the first time, it wasn't just a nomination, but it became more or less like a contest. If you trace the history of the NPP and how they nominate their running mate, this one was very peculiar in the sense that it was a near contest where the lobbying reached beyond astronomical caution and what have you. So there are still grievances of factions, distinct factions at the base. And that is a worry to a lot of supporters of the ruling New Patriotic Party, especially as far as the Ashanti region is concerned. And then the faction emanates from the camp of the Ashanti regional chairman of the party, Bernard Nchibu Isiakon, and of course, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. Beyond that, we are also seeing factions from two constituencies, that is Bosomtwe constituency and that of Menchia South constituency, in the sense that Bosomtwe constituency has Dr. Yaweduchum, who was also in a pole position to have been nominated by the flag bearer of the party. Of course, eventually the one or the nominee Dr. Matthew Pukupempe, who also is coming from the Menchia South constituency. So beyond the affirmation of or confirmation of Dr. Matthew Opokupempe, the concern is that 5 months to the general election, will these two factions smoke the peace pie and also understand that they have one soul and one focus, one objective, and that is to unite for victory? That is the $1 question here.
Now,
John.
the Ashanti region is the home region of the NPP. We do know that in the past few months, in fact, the last few years, the Ashanti region has bemoaned the fact that they have been ignored because in terms of projects and some other developmental issues that inure to their benefit, the NDC has been rubbing it in their faces that, well, you vote for the NPP every time, but what do you have to show for it? And then they have also bared their teeth and suggested that, look, the government needs to do more. Are they still talking about those issues in the Ashanti region?
They are talking about them. For instance, last night on a commercial show, a number of projects that the NDC executed while in office, the communicator enumerated them. On the side of the NPP, it was becoming more and more difficult because there are a number of monumental projects that are still at the early stage, not even 10% of completion. So, for instance, you're talking about the much anticipated Swami fourth-year interchange. And I quite remember when the NDC person was making reference to that, he said, well, that has been the signature of the MPP. 2008, they started the supply interchange. Around this level, they left the project. NDC came and completed it. Then a number of them. NPP, as I'm talking to you now, as far as the stronghold is concerned, well, if you're talking about road projects, they've done quite a number of them. But we are talking about some monumental projects that, I mean, the expectation is that those projects are completed. They are yet to. They have confidence that projects like the Afari Military Hospital will be completed and commissioned in September. What I've heard, a number of people in higher authority, for instance, the Deputy Defense Minister has given that assurance. Yesterday, the Ashanti Regional Communication Officer for the ruling New Patriotic Party also said same. And of course, a host of other ministers who have given assurance that that particular project will be completed and commissioned in September. It is not too clear whether Sewia, the regional hospital, will also see completion sooner or later. Later, I think, even before the December election, it is not too clear because the only thing that has kept that particular project on hold is connecting the facility to the national grid. That is the only, and you remember some time ago that even Otunfo said if government is not going to do it, he was ready to do it by himself. So that particular project is still hanging. And then a host of others. I mean, the Quadaso Creative Art School is still hanging. And then, of course, we're also talking about the mother and baby unit. Of course, there's a makeshift which was constructed by the First Lady. It is still in use. But the main project, it is also still hanging. KJTR Phase 2 project, it is not too clear whether it will be completed. And it doesn't look like it is going to be completed before the elections. Of course, for the Ajimai Prempeh, the first international airport, it has been commissioned and it has been opened, but we don't know whether it meets the standard that we're going to see international airlines taxi at the tarmac. We are yet to see that. So when it comes to comparing projects, the NDC seems to have some level of upper because one particular project that they always use to gag the NPP has to do with the KJTR Phase 1 project, which they always claim that they completed it before leaving office.
Right.
The NPP started phase 2, but it is yet to be completed.
I see. Crosby, let me bring you into this conversation and ask you about the dynamics in the Greater Accra region. The Greater Accra region is a swing region, from what we know, at least from 1992. Is the story any different in the Greater Accra region in favor or against the NPP?
Well, Johnny, with this question, let's look at it from these angles. So if you engage a lot of political analysts on the nomination or the confirmation of Dr. Boko Prempeh as the running mate to Dr. Bawumia, this is what they're saying, that the running mate of any party or to the flag bearer is expected to bring in votes from outside the party. So not to engage only with the grassroots members of the party, because they expect that should be done by the flag bearer of the party, him or herself, and that the running mate should be able to appeal to other quarters of the nation, undecided voters, perhaps first-time voters maybe, people who do not have affiliations or hardcore inclinations with the existing party. In this case, what they're saying about Dr. Boko Prempeh is that he is expected to consolidate the base of the NPP. Now, that's according to the NPP themselves, and that, according to some political experts, political analysts, is not something that augurs well for the NPP, because the NPP will have its core supporters already. What is important is for them to extend a hand so that they will be able to reach undecided voters. They don't see Dr. Boko Prempeh doing that. Away from that, too, if you look at previous polls from various pollsters, Professor Smart Sapon, for instance, Musa Dangwa, for instance, they're pointing to the fact that the Greater Accra region will be a deciding factor in the general elections. It will be a region that will decide who the next president of the country will be.
Right.
Indeed, the government has also been heard making these statements that the winner of the elections will be determined by the Greater Accra region. Professor Sapong, in one of his recent polls, suggested that the Greater Accra region may be falling for the NPP, but that is still early days yet, Johnny.
Bill, I come back now to you. A staunch member of the NPP in the Ashanti region, Andy Apiakubi, MP for Asante Achim North, is on record to have said that Napo is not the best pair of hands to partner Dr. Bawumia because he thinks so. Now, is this a unanimous decision, as we saw by the National Council of the Ashanti region, to rally behind Napo, or still on the ground, you have people who have their reservations because people have mentioned his temperament, people have mentioned arrogance, people have saying he's not a people person, etc. What is the ground saying in terms of, okay, laying down everything and rallying behind him, or otherwise?
Let me use what I observed at the Menchia South constituency whilst I was covering, the pre and post confirmation. So the only place that you see an activity was the constituency party's office. That was the only place that you see a handful of people who were actually observing proceedings from Accra. The entire constituency, even at the Apeja Royal House, I didn't see any level of enthusiasm, because if you're going to talk about history, then it was certainly a historical moment. It was supposed to be a historical moment for not only the constituents, but people who are very close, with or to the four-time lawmaker for the Menchia South constituency. But I didn't see that level of enthusiasm. Well, maybe it's early days here, because on Tuesday, Dr. Matthew Boko Prempeh will be in Kumasi, and then certainly he will be in his constituency. So I don't know whether that is when they will show that kind of much anticipated love and the fact that they appreciate the fact that it's also risen as far as the political ladder is concerned. So I didn't see that. And to answer your question, by virtue of my observation, I may say that probably some level of contrast there, looking at the 85.5 overwhelming support from the National Council. And of course, Dr. Amachi Boateng, whom we also engaged in Akoma FM this morning,
right.
I mean, his observation to some extent resonates with what I saw at the Menchia South constituency yesterday.
I see. Now, let's look at the replacement for Napo. Is it a done deal for his younger brother, or he would also have to sweat it out with other party people who are interested in the slot?
You only need an overwhelming support at the polling station level, at the electoral area coordinator, among the electoral area coordinator, and of course, the constituency executive, the 17 constituency executives. And I can tell you that Napo, in the last election, did a lot of work from the grassroots up to the constituency level. In fact, Nana Owusu Efriye Prempeh currently is the constituency treasurer. He has been receiving some grooming because Napo had given a hint that if he exits Parliament, the next person who should succeed him is Nana Owusu Efriye Prempeh. And he's also coming from the Apeja Royal House.
So this is a dynasty more of a sort, is it not?
Absolutely. You see, the Menchia South constituency has more or less become a family seat. Because 1996 it was Dr. Adokopo from the Apeja House. Then Dr. Matthew Puku Prempeh took over in 2008 from the Apeja House. So you wouldn't be wrong to say that certainly, and I can bet with my last point. I said it on Akoma FM this morning. Just I said confidently before Napo was made that come what may, Nana Owusu Efriye Prempeh will be the next member of parliament, unless of course he decides that he's no more contest, or another person from the Apeja Royal House contesting. Otherwise, he's the next member of parliament for Menchia, or the parliamentary candidate for Menchia South constituency.
Bill, I thank you very much indeed for your time. That's William Evans Inkom. He's our Northern Bureau Chief, joining us all the way from the Ashanti region with his comments. Noble, you have the closing thoughts. You've been crisscrossing the Greater Accra region with the top brass of the NPP. The people in the Greater Accra region, and this is a cosmopolitan area, have been complaining about the economic situation, have been complaining about the cost of living, and many other promises that have not been fulfilled by the party. This pair, and from what you pick on the ground, now we're moving away from just Napo to the Bawumia Napo pair. Will you say it's a dynamic duo per what the people are saying on the ground, or this is double trouble? What are they saying?
Well, Johnny, I'll get to your question shortly, but I'd like to make this correction. So I mentioned that in Professor Matsapong's recent poll, we said the Greater Accra region was falling for the NPP. However, the reality is that on political party preferences, the NDC's lead is evident in regions such as the Bono East, the Greater Accra, Northern Uti, and some other regions. So the Greater Accra region, according to Professor Matsapong, is falling for the NDC, not the NPP. However, it is early days here. Now, to your substantive question, Johnny, although the Greater Accra region, a cosmopolitan area, however, the struggles in the region is no different from other parts of the country. If it's starting in the Greater Accra region, it is reaching the outskirts of the country. If it is starting from the outskirts of the country, it is reaching the Greater Accra region. If prices of goods and services have been increased from the farms, if farmers from the local areas are not getting the necessary the resources they need to produce the inputs to transport them from the various farms in the villages all through to the Greater Accra region, because it cascades from that area to the Greater Accra region. So if you engage people in the region, what they're telling you is that, well, they are almost indifferent about the confirmation of Dr. Matthew Puku Prempeh. They do not think that he will be able to, if you like, directly convince them, or their decision to vote for the NPP will be because of the nomination of Dr. Matthew Puku Prempeh. So it's not a cause and effect situation. It's not like Dr. Puku Prempeh is now the running mate, therefore I will vote for the NPP. That is not it. The reality is that they, on their own, will decide on election day who they will vote for, and it will be based on policies of the political parties. It will be based on issues on unemployment. It will be based on issues of financial inducement, candidates' track record. Will be power crisis, water crisis, and other critical issues affecting their lives, and not directly linked to Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. He, if you like, bluntly, will not have any bearing on the decisions that voters make on December 7th.
Noble Crosby-Anna, thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful. And on that note, we'll go to Andy Appiah-Kubi, MP for Asante Achim North. He disagrees. He says Napo is not best fit for the post. Listen to him.
Well, I wouldn't speak for a majority because, as I told you, we have not been consulted as a caucus for us to state our position. But me, Appiah-Kubi, you can solicit my view on that. If it was for me to choose, I would choose him. Why? He's not my preference. Me.
He's not your preference?
Yes.
Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is...
Appiah-Kubi is saying that he is not my preference. But that doesn't mean that he is not qualified.
Do you have a preference?
Well, if there was an opportunity like that, I would express a candidate, however acceptable or otherwise, to our presidential candidate.
What candidate
I would want somebody. I would want somebody who will be open with the people on the ground, who will be able to deliver the votes, and who would also submit to the presidency, and who will also be important in bringing parliament closer to executive. I would probably select somebody who is more acceptable by the generals going to the war, the parliamentarians. We should find somebody who, if the presidential candidate is not there, he will hold the hand of a member of parliament and go and conduct campaign in that member of parliament's constituency. I don't see that happening in this equation.
That's Andy Appiah-Kubi, is MP for Asante Achim North. Maybe we'll have to check up on him. And he's fast gaining the notoriety, Helen, of coming to say one thing.
Right.
Because he's part of National Council. The National Council, we are told, unanimously agreed that Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh becomes the running mate, right?
That's right.
Same Andy Appiah-Kubi, who came to tell us that they would not listen to Ken Ofori-Atta read the budget. They would not be part of the discussion of the budget. Remember that Ken and Dr. Charles Edubuahi must go. And then subsequently he backtracked.
That's right.
And then we had the budget. Ken Ofori-Atta stayed on for some time. So we have to start asking Mr. Andy Appiah-Kubi a few questions. That look, you come and say one thing, and then we go on. You say another thing. What's going on?
I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. I said to myself that following these assertions made by Honorable Andy Appiah-Kubi, I was going to give him 1 week, 1 or 2 weeks, and then hear back to see if there's a U-turn being made on what he had to say. So until I hear further, because I suspect that this position will now change. Unanimous means that everybody is or was
Agreed.
on board.
Right.
That's right.
Professor Kobe Mensah is joining us from the University of Ghana. He is a political marketing guru. Prof, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Johnny. Good morning. Very happy morning for you guys, I'm sure.
Pump up.
We are pumping up.
Doc, this ticket, Napo, Bawumia, is this what the NPP needs to break the 8?
Well, you see, Johnny, the point is that there are so many, factors that you would want to consider that voters will look up to and vote for you. Clearly, your delivery, your honesty, etc., is very, very paramount. Political parties cannot win elections with candidates if they haven't actually delivered. If there is a resounding, position that you have actually failed in your mandate, I don't think that, political parties can really win election with any candidate. And what makes this very difficult is that you then have, candidates whose personalities are actually challenging, to most voters. And I say that because there is a resounding, view that, the head of the ticket had not been forthright with Ghanaians. You know, he had been dishonest. Sometimes he had been outright untruthful, and he has been stonewalling the voters. You actually come into administration with a huge expectation that you're going to be in charge of economic situations to improve the lot of the people. Now, you haven't done that, and you have been stonewalling people. People are expecting you that to answer some economic questions in this dire period. You have never done so, and we go around doing digitalization. And when people talk, you say, well, you're not the head of the ticket at the time. But of course, the head of the ticket said you were selected for one reason and one reason only, that you would take charge of the economy. And then you go around and take up another candidate as a running mate whose character is also challenging, who had actually headed two most important ministries, one would argue, education and energy. And none of them we can see a certain track record that people can be bold enough to say it actually cements or talks about your credentials. People have problems with your personality, with your relationship, the way you speak to people in a very condescending manner in this country in terms of voters' engagement. And then, of course, you do not have, apart from your constituency, your backyard, the general public of this country having a certain likability for you. How do you expect to win the elections if not for a certain, basis that you think you can actually push your way and you can actually foster on Ghanaians, just as you've been doing with policy position? I really, really don't see that happening. In modern political system, and that's why we talk about political marketing.
Right.
Governments and states actually listen to people, unlike those days, which we call it dogmatic. In those dogmatic days, political parties look at their ideology and they think that they have the sense in the world to do things and tell voters that this is what we're going to do for you. Now, that kind of policy, that kind of principle has changed. Voters around the world, governments around the world engage, and government listen to voter sentiment in order to actually behave in a certain way. We have a certain NPP party who thinks that they can disrespect, they can undeliver, but still foster things on Ghanaians, and then they will have their way out. Well, we want to see in December whether that's what is going to happen.
Now, there are those who think that the NDC, which will, if you will, the duopoly, the NDC doesn't have a message. They don't have very strong hands. And Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh will be the game changer, given the fact that the Ashanti region is behind him, and the fact that if the NPP wins 75% of the votes in the Ashanti region, it's a done deal for them. In terms of the messaging, Napo has not really endeared himself to the people in terms of his last comments that if you want a Domsor timetable, draw your own thing. People have gone back to dig when he was education minister to suggest to students that if you don't have a toilet in your school, defecate into a poly bag and toss it away, and many other things that he has said in the past. How much will these comments from the past hurt the campaign that is yet to be waged?
92.7.
You see, if you want to actually understand somebody's attitude and behavior, and you're not closer to the person, within the political system or within the political communication, we say that, language is performative, all right? Whatever somebody says actually is a description of what, they are or who they are in general. Now, most people, as you rightly mentioned, are going to evaluate, what he has said in the past, his relationship with the voters, and actually ask themselves whether this is the kind of leadership, we actually, calling for. And I doubt that majority of people will be concerned, apart from the very activists of his, party and those within his constituency that are his backers. I don't think that the people of Central Region, for example, will be excited to have a certain Bawumia, a Napo ticket. I don't think the Western Region people will do. I don't think the Greater Accra. The appeal, that the electability appeal that you expect candidates to have. It is not in this particular NPP, what they call ticket. And I doubt for those who actually believe that it's a done deal. I'm not sure the kind of analysis they're actually making or the kind of card they're actually holding that is actually giving them that confidence.
Right.
Unless, of course, the government NPP or the party NPP has other things that we don't know. But of course, if we want to look at the voter behavior the world over, if we want to look at a political system the world over, there is no way that a political party like the NPP has done would win an election in such an environment. It is never done. Look at what has happened in England, for example. It's a landslide in Britain, if I should put it. It's a landslide. Why? Because the Conservative Party not even behaving like what NPP is behaving, yet they've lost massively in the election. So I doubt those who are actually thinking that it's a done deal. I'm not sure their level of understanding of political climate and political systems, and especially modern political organization. I'm not sure the understanding of that. But anyone who has a deep understanding of modern political systems, you don't win election with this behavior.
Now, in terms of the utterances also by other members of the campaign team, some have suggested that, for example, their home region, the Ashanti region, and they go back to Napo. If you can't do the development, you can't complete the projects, find them T-shirts and you are good to go. People have found out to be very demeaning and quite disrespectful. Some have said that, okay, those were days when he was just a minister of state, but now he's stepping into the big shoes of a running mate and possibly becoming the vice president. So he will learn from his past and learn to do no wrong again going forward. What do you say?
I think that those who actually, study human behavior will tell you that people don't change overnight. I mean, you're talking about formation. Someone who was a minister is also a leadership position. And so if somebody who was a minister could actually position themselves or can actually have that posture, how much more when you're giving them the most powerful position? I'm surprised when people actually reason like that. Someone who was a minister, which is a leadership position, but not ultimate power, can actually tell you that, who are you? If you are interested, go and draw your own timetable. And you think that by giving them the ultimate power, they will change. It's so strange, the kind of analysis people make, all right? And I tell people that, look, you rather would be better off to have a candidate who most people don't know than having a candidate whose negativities is quite a lot. In marketing, we have something called inept and inept set, all right, in the consumer analysis. Any brand that is not in the mind of the consumer, i.e. consumer has no awareness of, it's easy to actually push that brand into the consumer's mind than a brand that has a negative association in the consumer's mind. To change that linkage is damn difficult, all right? And so I am not sure the kind of theories that inform some of these understandings that having someone who actually challenges your right to good governance would rather change when given the ultimate power. I doubt it.
Now, the other conversation is also about the NPP having touted Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as an economic whiz kid in opposition, and then trying to do a head-on-head analysis with John Dramani Mahama, vice president at the time, and the fact that he never headed the economic management team. With the benefit of power, we have seen what the figures look like and what Dr. Bawumia has been able to deliver. Apologies to COVID, Russia, and Ukraine, etc. Dr. Matiopoku Prempeh is coming to the table. He is not an economist. He's a dentist. And people are beginning to question whether or not he will be able to do what the economic whiz kid could not do, given the fact that Ghana finds itself in a very, very difficult situation at this time. What do you see?
Having the chicken come home to roost. You see, I keep saying that most of the time the argument of the NPP is not strategic, all right? Now, at a time when they were, making those hot-headed arguments that, yes, NPP brought a teacher, they had an economist, etc., I kept saying that leadership, you don't need a discipline area, all right? Leadership, you must have something like a bird's eye view, all right? Somebody that could understand the issues regardless of whether it's what you call economy or education or health or whatever, that could appreciate the issues and has that temperament and sentiment to actually, make the right call, in terms of, decisions. Now, they touted all those things and then said, yes, the economic management needed somebody of an economic background. I said, no, you don't need that. Eventually, what have we seen? You are now having somebody who is a dentist, who is an economist. Are you not short-sighted? Again, I keep saying that having Dr. Bawumia as a reason for solving your so-called arcanistic tax is the wrong strategic decision to make because it doesn't solve the problem, all right? And then, of course, you make all those noise and then you bring, Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, you've gone for a running mate who is, an Ashanti. Now, strategically, if Bawumia doesn't win this election, I can bet you with $1 of even the last dollar, all right? Napo would eventually become the head of the NPP, having to gone back to the same solution that you said you wanted to put forward as a result of Bawumia's selection. So the point is that they are always boxing themselves in the corner. When people are making strategic arguments, they don't listen. They rather box themselves up in their own world view of how they see things. Eventually, they are found out. So I keep saying that these kinds of decisions, this kind of argument that they make are not strategic arguments. They rather want to look ahead. If you want to solve your so-called arcanistic task, you cannot use, a one-time leadership to solve that. It's a long-term thing. If indeed you accept that you are arcanistic, which, by the way, I think that it is not even a matter of, debate. Because at the end of the day, candidates are actually seen from the position of compelling expertise. It doesn't matter where they come from. But if you have accepted an argument that perhaps the identity of the candidate is so paramount for you, you have gone back to the same Ashanti base. And I can promise you, if Bawumia doesn't win this election, Napo will become the head of the ticket. How would you argue about solving your arcanistic task? And so the same thing about the economic argument as you put forward. All right?
Right.
You had touted economic money, now you have a dentist. What would you say?
Doc, 5 months to the big election. NPP wants to break the 8. NDC wants to come back to power, and their big message is that they want to fix the mess that has been, done by the NPP. Is there a magic wand, if at all, that the NPP can pull at this time, given all the narrative going around, to break the 8?
For me, I have said it once and again, and I am not going to actually hold back. This government has failed. This government has to be treated with the same measure as the past government. If you fail, we actually vote you out because that's a principle of democracy. If we do not, we actually empower people who don't believe in democracy. We actually would challenge the tenets of democracy. And so if democracy says that, let there be, procedural democracy, and they will follow a dividend democracy, which the dividend we haven't found, it means that we have to keep the procedural democracy alive. We need to vote you out. I don't see them actually changing behavior, changing attitudes. Otherwise, they would have actually apologized to Ghanaians for how terrible they have managed this government and how they have managed this country and how terrible their governance style has been. If they could do that, perhaps Ghanaians would have actually started looking at possibly forgiving them, not necessarily voting them back to power.
Right.
But these guys are not prepared to change. They are not prepared to change their behavior. They think they can push everything else. Policies that we didn't like, they pushed it on us. Candidates we don't like, they are pushing them on us. I doubt if there's anything to actually save them because all the three variables that you're supposed to go into at least the elections with, the candidate, the policy, the party, the three of them are bad. The party is divided. The policies are terrible. The candidate, completely unacceptable. How would you win an election?
Professor Kobe Mensah, thank you very much indeed for your time. He is a political marketing and communications guru, and he joined us here with his thoughts and nuggets. Helen.
Very interesting indeed. Something very interesting that Prof said had to do with how the people make decisions during elections, or at least this time around.
Right.
Gone are the days when political parties or those that are seeking power will come and tell you, well, this is the plan I have for you. Now, more and more Ghanaians want to be citizens and not merely spectators. That means that there has to be more consensus building on a number of issues. You see what happens when policies, ideas are forced on the people. There's resistance because of a lack of collaboration.
That's
Sometimes, even if it's a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that the
Let
other
them
side,
co-produce it.
yes,
Right.
let's at least Jojo, as we like to say here. And that is why the issue of likability, the issue of approachability, the issue of collaboration comes in. And if there's a lot of chats and chatter going on about Napo's personality, I think it's because of issues like this. People want to do away with this I have the plan, you just accept it approach. So if they feel as though they cannot collaborate, they cannot get some sort of listening
a top
ear.
bottom approach must change
Thank
to
you.
bottom up approach.
Thank you. And if they feel like something, your character, your disposition will hinder that, you can see where that resistance is. And that is why this issue of likability, collaboration, and the Apia Kubi said it, can this person hold my hand and go with me?
Well, it's 4 minutes after 9. Here's Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic, endorsing the Napo Bawumia ticket. Listen.
The National Council has just endorsed the nomination of Matthew Poku Prempeh to be the running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The NPP has an excellent ticket, and we're going to win with this ticket in 2024, 7th of December. That's the news. That's the news.
How's the feeling?
Feeling is good. The feeling is good. Well, they make a very good pair, and they're going to win.
That's President Akufo-Addo. He's confident that they're going to win. Well, he says he has a legacy to maintain, and maybe a bit of a throwback of Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. Let's go back a bit. What has he been saying in the past? And some very interesting comments that as an education minister, as health minister, as a energy minister. Some things. Listen.
So when the power stayed, when rain fell in your areas or in our areas, people hailed the minister. So when power doesn't come, people will blast the minister. I'm prepared for both, but we all have to live with the reality. Insofar as we haven't completed the work schedule, if so far as occurrences would happen, I don't want to believe that these are orchestrated or people are behind what is happening. But if you have one of your switch yards going off, if you have what you have put in place that you don't want your voltages to collapse, burning or overcharging, if your lines tripping, if even this morning whilst we were here, the only transformer that was going to bring power to this side collapses, there's not much you can do. But if the gridco is solvent, it means financially viable, then it can quickly replace that transformer. But if a transformer gets burned, and it's a machine, it can get burned, and it's going to take them 2 years. We are going to feel the effect. But if we don't pay for what we consume, we cannot also begin to maintain as we have to maintain.
That's Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, bemoaning, or if you like, complaining that people fight him each time the lights go off. Now, I had an interview with him 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago on TV3 New Day. And I asked him a specific question about e-levy. Here's what he had to say about e-levy. Listen. For example, let's say you send me Momo. You send me Momo of 500 Ghana cedis. As soon as you send the money to me, you are paying 1.75. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm paying. Only me.
Now, it hits my account. I decide also to give my nephew 100 Ghana cedis.
That's a different transaction.
I'm paying 1.75. He's also transmitting 1.75 on that same 500 Ghana cedis.
I'm just telling you something. It's not the same. It's the transaction.
Okay.
So you go and import something, they charge you VAT of 17.5%.
Right.
When you decide to sell it to a second person, you charge the person a tax rate of 17.5%. When the person decides to sell to another, till it gets to the final consumer who pays the 17.5%, every transaction will have the 17.5% on.
But that's too much.
But that is what our VAT has operated since COVID. That's how VAT has operated. Look, let us not make... Okay. What we have to understand is that how do we charge our taxes in this country.
Okay.
And I'm just proving to you that the way VAT operates is the same way the e-levy is going to operate. We are going to charge the e-levy not on persons but on transactions, with the exclusion that if the person is transmitting money between his own account in one account or the other bank.
I hear you. So that was what we were told back then. But the case is totally different now, because now even accounts that have been linked are being charged. Now, his boss, Dr. Bawumia, says we will cancel the e-levy when given the power. So what does he think? We'll talk about him a bit more, but there's the controversial, if you want a Dumso timetable, bring your own timetable. That cannot be forgotten, nor can it be swept under the carpet. Listen.
4 years. NPP administration, energy sector is 300 times better than John Mahama.
But we are still experiencing Dumso.
Nobody has said we haven't. I'm just saying it's far much better than John Mahama ever did.
You admit there is Dumso in the country? You do admit that there's Dumso?
That is the word you used. I have never used that word. I promised you that we are going to work on it. And it's not a work that is a single event. It's a process. And we'll continue to work on it for the energy sector to become better.
Have you heard of calls for a timetable?
Ask those who want it to bring it. They should bring the timetable. If there is, I haven't seen any timetable. So
but people are calling for it.
Say bring a timetable. So what do you mean? The ECG says that there's no timetable coming. Why do you want to bring a timetable? What purpose? Why would somebody get up and wish evil or bad for the country?
No, it's not how bad it is. Ghanaians are
actually so. When it is not planned, you can't tell the person.
So, were you in
Ghana and Najomam? Did you live in this country and Najomam? Did you live in this country and Najomam? I'm asking you.
It was equally worse.
It cannot be worse.
So that was it. Dr. Matiopoku Prempeh saying that, well, Helen, if you want, bring your own timetable. So if you want to vote for me, bring your own election register, maybe. Oh, I can't say that.
I mean, this particular statement, I know that he wishes he had reworded it, or in fact never said it at all, because that is top of everybody's mind at a time when we were, hoping for the best, really not wishing evil on the country, because nobody really wishes to sleep in such heat. We were looking for a bit of empathy, some clarity, some understanding. This could have been handled differently. A different candidate, a different person with a different persona would have tackled that question and cooled down tempers. Instead, tempers flared, and today, Honorable Matthew Prempeh has to contend with those things that he has said. They said, if you want people to say honorable things about you, do honorable things.
And it takes me back to 2 years ago again, Helen. I had that exclusive with Dr. Matthew Prempeh. I asked him about his presidential ambitions. 2 years ago.
I see.
I asked him about his presidential ambitions. Listen. Do you want to be president?
What does that mean?
Do you want to be president?
What does that mean?
Do you want to be president?
What does that mean? President
I saw in the Ashanti region of the country.
Are we
do you have plans? I saw in the Ashanti region your banners around the conference venue, Napo for vice president.
Do we elect vice president?
Do you want to be president?
Do we elect vice president?
The electors are watching.
The electors are watching. And let me point and say this. I am not part of a new presidential bid.
Vice president? I'm
not part, because I have not seen anybody ever bid for vice president.
Okay.
Actually, we set a very bad example to sit on your TV and tell
would you be happy to partner Dr. Bawumia?
I'll be happy
if he wants to be president.
I'll be happy for the president of the country to give me any job that he thinks I'm competent.
Vice president inclusive?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I'm not the one choosing. How can I say? All I have to do is to do my work well and demonstrate that.
But you're not sure if you want to be president or not?
I'm not sure who'll be sure he wants to be president. It means you're going to kill or sell your mother to me.
No, you must have a focus and a vision.
A focus and a vision. That alone doesn't drive anything, because some of the most focused people are the Kaya with a vision. But I'm not sure that's what they want.
Some of your party folks believe you can be president. You should be president.
Thank God for that. People
Do you subscribe to their thinking?
I subscribe to hard work and smart working.
Which includes becoming president?
To increase the productivity and the efficiency of the work we do.
So you don't want to be president?
To be smart is good enough.
President?
What does...
Do you want to be president?
What does that mean?
Do you want to be president?
What does that mean?
Do you want to be president?
What does that mean?
I saw in the Ashanti region
President of which association?
Of the country.
Are we
do you have plans? I saw in the Ashanti region your banners around the conference venue, Napo for vice president.
Do we elect vice president?
Do you want to be president?
Do we elect vice president?
The electors are watching.
The electors are watching. And let me point and say this. I am not part of any presidential bid.
Vice president? I'm
not part because I have not seen anybody ever bid for vice president.
Okay.
Actually, we set a very bad example to sit on your TV and tell
Would you be happy to partner Dr. Bawumia?
I'll be happy
if he wants to be president.
I'll be happy for the president of the country to give me any job that he thinks I'm competent.
Vice president inclusive?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I'm not the one choosing. How can I say? All I have to do is to do my work well and demonstrate that.
But you're not sure if you want to be president or not?
I'm not sure who'll be sure he wants to be president. It means you're going to kill or sell your mother to me.
No, you must have a focus and a vision.
A focus and a vision. That alone doesn't drive anything because some of the most focused people are the Kaya with a vision. But I'm not sure that's what they want.
Some of your party folks believe you can be president. You should be president.
Thank God for that.
Do you subscribe to their thinking?
I subscribe to hard work and smart working.
Which includes becoming president?
To increase the productivity and the efficiency of the work we do.
So you don't want to be president?
To be smart is good enough.
The best in the morning is on 92.7 Sunrise on 3FM.
It's 14 minutes after 9 here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. We'll take a break. When we return from the break, we will go straight to Kanishi Market. Helen, Ashokiwana. In my library, there are a lot of things in my library.
I didn't even know that you had this in your pocket from 2 years ago because interestingly...
It's only 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Napo says, do we vote for... I saw this guy, I put it in the group chat, in Israel. My auntie lives there. Some weeks ago, I went to a funeral there and I saw this pickup. I think I even shared it on the day. And it says, vote Matthew Opoku Prempeh as vice presidential candidate 2024. I'm not sure he's aware of this branding on there.
To be fair, maybe he's not
yes,
aware.
I think so.
Are just ambitious.
But I just wanted him to know. I saw it at Israel, please.
Israel in Accra.
In
not
Accra.
Israel in
No. Israel Accra.
just so we are clear in our minds that it's not Israel. Maybe we'll pick a few calls before we go on that break. Let's go back to Parliament. Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh apologizing to John Mahama for alleging of him busing children to the Independence Square. Listen.
Prove to this committee that ex-President Mahama bused people to the Independence Square and paid them to fake collapsing during the SHS placement.
No, I can't.
Does the nominee therefore think that in his inability to prove this before this honorable committee, he owes the ex-president an apology for that?
No, I don't.
92.7.
Mr. Chair, I actually said that I'll use different words, and I do regret. I said it.
Honorable nominee, just you see, withdraw and apologize if you cannot prove it, and then we make progress.
Honorable leader,
So
you did say and you asked me to do something, I did it.
And I say
yes. If those words I used hurt him, I do withdraw and apologize to him.
So the withdrawal and apology came. And that's where we bring you in. 17 minutes after 9 on 3FM 92.7. At least Napo is honest enough to apologize and withdraw. It's okay, right? It's a good trait of human nature.
Genuinely, when you're presented with new information, it is prudent, it is wise to apologize. Definitely. He comes to the table with a lot of different skill sets. He's a medical doctor and so on and so forth. He's got some good qualities also. You don't get to certain positions just by luck.
Right.
But of course, there are other areas that if you just check and test the pulse, he's not doing so well on.
Vice presidential candidates, Professor Nana Jino Pokwajman. Let's try this.
Some time back, we had a minister come out to say, well, you didn't know what you were doing at the education ministry. I'm sure you heard that.
Oh, yes, I heard that.
So is that the case? You didn't know what you were doing there?
Well, according to him, and he's entitled to his opinion.
But what came to mind when you heard, a medical practitioner who had been put in the education ministry, when you heard him say that the educationists didn't know what she was doing there?
Well, what I expected was that as somebody who had taken over from me, would have opportunity to work together. But if that wasn't the case, it didn't really bother me.
Let's spend the next 10 minutes picking your calls on 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154, 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154. Simple question. Dr. Bawumia and Napo on one side, John Mahama and Professor Nana Jino on one side. Which one are you going for? Good morning.
Good morning. Nico Hughes.
Yes, sir, Urea.
Which one are you?